Learning objective number 2 is to prepare and interpret a cost volume profit, CVP, graph and a profit graph. The relationships among revenue, cost, profit, and volume can be expressed graphically by preparing a cost volume profit, CVP graph. To illustrate, we will use contribution income statements for Racing Bicycle Company at 0, 200, 400, and 600 units sold. In a CVP graph, unit volume is usually represented on the horizontal X-axis and dollars on the vertical Y-axis. Using this convention, a CVP graph can be prepared in 3 steps. The first step begins by drawing a line parallel to the volume axis to represent total fixed expenses of $80,000. Next, choose some sales volume, for example, for 100 units, and plot the point representing total expenses, e.g., fixed and variable, at that sales volume. Draw a line through the data point back to where the fixed expenses line intersects the dollar axis. Finally, choose some sales volume, for example, for 100 units, and plot the point representing total sales dollars at the chosen activity level. Draw a line through the data point back to the origin. Part 1, the break-even point, is where the total revenue and total expenses lines intersect. In the case of Racing Bicycle, break-even is 400 bikes sold, or sales revenue of $200,000. Part 2, the profit or loss at any given sales level, is measured by the vertical distance between the total revenue and the total expenses lines. Learning objective number 3 is to use the contribution margin ratio, CM ratio, to compute changes in contribution margin and net operating income resulting from changes in sales volume. The contribution margin ratio is calculated by dividing the total contribution margin by total sales. In the case of Racing Bicycle, the ratio is 40%. Thus, each $1 increase in sales results in a total contribution margin increase of 40 cents. The CM ratio can also be calculated by dividing the contribution margin per unit by the selling price per unit. Racing Bicycle has a CM ratio of 40%. This means that for each dollar increase in sales, the company will produce 40 cents in contribution margin. Let's see how we can use the contribution margin ratio to look at the contribution margin income statement of Racing Bicycle in a little different way. If RBC is able to increase its sales by $50,000, it will increase contribution margin by $20,000. That is, $50,000 times 40%. Can you calculate the contribution margin ratio for Coffee Klatch? The calculation may take a minute or so to complete. How did you do? The CM ratio is 75.8%. Part 1, the relationship between profit and the CM ratio can be expressed using the following equation. Profit equals CM ratio times sales less fixed expenses. Part 2, if Racing Bicycle reported sales of $250,000, what would management expect net operating profits to be? Part 3, as you can see, the expected net operating profit is $20,000.